Hey guys, good afternoon, good morning. Today what we're gonna do is we are going to discuss uh, basics about the workflow. Okay, as we know that in Commvault is already providing you a tool using which you can do the lot of automation. Okay, there's a lot of tasks that you can automate, which you are doing on a daily basis that you can automate. Now Commvault is actually providing a lot of options for the developer point of view. They are providing you the Python SDK. They are providing you the REST API. They are even providing you the Q command that we are already know that we have been using for the few of the operations as well. Uh, and the many other options which are available, which you can go to the Commvault documentation site and you can see over there that what all option has been provided by the Commvault for the automation perspective. So there will be a lot of video that we will be doing around the automation using the REST APIs as well, using the Q command as well and all that. But today what we're going to do is we are going to discuss around the workflows. Okay. Now, if you will go on the Commvault screen on the left hand side in the Commvault browser, there is something coming up with the name workflows. Okay. There's an option coming up with the workflows. And if you will select this workflow, you can see there are a lot of workflows which has already been created by the Commvault, which has given to you. Okay. Like for example, there is something called demo check readiness, which is one of the workflow if you want to check the readiness of your client, whether they are ready or not and all that. Okay. I think that is there. Sorry, this is there. The perform check on the every client. Okay, so this is how the there are the multiple workflow has been created for the various operation. Now, what is actually this workflow is? What this workflow is all about, this tool. See, generally, if you want to do some more automation, you should be knowing some language like Python, or you will be knowing the PowerShell, or you should know the how to use the REST APIs and all that. How you can read the output from the REST API? Like it will be in the form of JSON. So how can you read all that output? So you will be requiring, in short, you will be requiring a knowledge of some language, to work on the automation. But what Commvault says it's not mandatory that you should require some language, knowledge of some language to do the automation. We are providing you a tool with the name workflow in which you can create a workflow. And once you create a workflow, we will convert that particular workflow in the programming in the background. So you're not concerned about, you should not concern about the programming that is involved in the automation. So in the workflow, what we do is we kind of create a flow chart using the activities that is predefined activities that is given by the Commvault. Okay, right now these are the workflow which are available. You can, even if you want to schedule these workflow, you can schedule the workflow. But there is a lot of use case that you can do around the workflow. For example, there have been some cases which we have seen where the application owner, they want to have some kind of control on their backups, or there's some kind of control on their restoration. For example, they want to run the backup, you should give them the access at the any day, they should be able to run the backup. So what you can do is you can just create a workflow just to keep the thing simple, because otherwise if you're going to give them the control for the entire console, you have to train them on that Commvault as well, that what are the client computers, how you're going to run the backup for the sub client, how to define the content and all that. So what you can do is through the workflow, you can design a workflow in which it will be just ask for the input of the client name or the basic information like the default backup set. It's your choice whether you want them to mention, or you can extract that information automatically for the given specific client. So they just mention the name of a client, and using that particular client, once they given the name, automatically the backup will be triggered. Or you can even add the notification in the end, that send an email notification and all that. Okay, so this kind of things that you can perform this is a very small example that I've taken for the workflow. So you can do a lot of automation in this workflow. Okay, now what we're going to do is today we are going to get familiar with the workflow creation activities. Not all of these tabs, but few of the tabs. We'll create one basic workflow. And when I say basic workflow, let's suppose we want to create a workflow in which a backup will be initiated for a client that we will mention. And once the backup has been done, after that, using that backup job, restoration should be done. Also, if the backup get failed, the notification should be sent that backup got failed, and my programming or my workflow should get end. But if backup gets successful,
then it should initiate a restoration. And once the restoration get completed, it should send me the notification backup, sorry, restore got completed. And if the restoration get failed, then also it should send me the notification that your restoration got failed. So this is one of the kind of a example that the workflow that we are going to create, it just to give you the idea, how you can use the all these activity tab, or just to give you the introduction about the workflow. So might be in the future we will be doing more videos around the workflows where we have some specific requirement, or you can suggest the requirement that you want, and we can try to work on that whether it's achievable or not, because most of the things uh, we can only do those things in this workflow whose activities is defined in this one. Yes, there are the other activities options as well available, in which you can use the REST API, or you can directly run the SQL query on your Commvault DB, or even you can use the Q command. But that will be something of a higher level that we are going to see in some future videos. But right now, whatever the scenario I told you, that we are going to deploy that one. Now, for that one, what you will do is you will right click on these workflows. Once you right click on these workflow, there is something coming up, all tasks, and in the new, you will go to the workflow. Okay. Now, once you click on the workflow, there will be one window that will be coming up automatically. Now, in this window, this is the chart on which we are going to create all the activities that we want. Okay, this is a screen where we are going to create all the flow chart that we have. Okay, now on the left hand side under these activities panel, in this one we have a lot more activities that has been predefined over there, from which I need to select and create a logic or create a flow chart using all these activity which has been mentioned. Now, for example, if I talk about Q command, in this Q command, there are the create related activities, delete related activities, drive related activities, info related, list related, library, and all that. For example, if I expand list, so in this one, for example, this tab backup set, which is under the list, so it will, if you will use this particular set, so it will give you the backup sets, all the backup sets which is there in some specific client. Whereas this particular tab will give you the list of all the clients. This will give you the list of all the client groups. Okay, in this way you can see by the looking at the name, job summary, if you want to see the job history, or if you want to see the job or some media agent information and all that, so it will give you all that information. So this is for the list. In this way you have the other things as well, like for example, there's an operation that you want to do, like you want to take a DR backup, you want to take a backup, you want to run an auxiliary copy, or you want to move the data or something like this, you want to create a replication and all that, job retention and all that. So if you want to do some operation related to all these things which names suggest, for example, you perform that, you want to perform a restoration and all that, so these are the activity tabs that you have to use. So you can just keep on modify expanding and all that, and you can see under this job there is something called wait for job completion. So if you will put this one this activity somewhere, so whatever the job that has been initiated, this workflow will wait for that particular job to get complete, to get the result, and on the basis of that you can take the decision that whether backup got completed or not. Then if completed, then take this action, not then this particular action, along which we will be using from the control flow. There are a lot of options available. For example, decision, in which you need to take a decision according to the condition, in which you have the for each loop as well, like if there is a multiple values that has been detected, for each value you want to execute or repeat that workflow, that you can also do for each. So in this way there are a lot of activities that you will be getting over there. So it's not easy to explain each and everything over there. So whatever you will be using, or we will be using over there, we all will see how those activities has been used, and probably in the future we will be using all the other activities as well according to the scenario. So today my scenario is I want to run a backup for one client, and customers should, when the customer execute that workflow, customers should mention the client name. So client name will be taken as an input from the customer. Once he has given the client name, then I should be able to run the backup for the default backup set and the default sub client. We are doing everything on the default just to keep the thing simple. So what you can do is you can go in the Q command. In the Q command, under the operation, there is a tab with the name backup. This tab, you will click on this one, and you will not hold the, you will not, what you say, release your mouse click, and you will just drag this tab over here on the screen. So once you drag this thing, you just drag over here, and you can see this has been backup tab has been created. Now there is an automatic arrow that has been created to backup. This is a starting point of your workflow.
So it got it start from here and it go to the backup. When once you initiate a workflow from the start, it will directly go to the backup tab. Now in this backup tab, once you select this backup tab, on the lower side there is some characteristics which are coming up associated with this backup tab. If you will click on this white screen, there is still the activity, the few of the properties that are coming up, but that these properties are for the entire workflow. They're not just specific to this tab. So if I select the backup tab, these are the properties which are related to this one: input, general, output, system, on start script, on complete script, and all that. So if you will go to the general tab for this backup tab that you have, the backup activity that you have, for this one, the name of this activity, we know it's backup. Namespace is, this is a namespace that has been given. The display name is the name which has been written on the screen. So if I want to change this thing to something like a test backup, that also you can do. Is this is a just the display name that will be changed for this particular tab. So you have just mentioned test backup, and you can see it has been updated to test backup automatically. Now this unique name has been assigned to this particular block, backup underscore one. Every block that you're, every activity that you're going to use over there, every activity block will have its unique name with the name backup underscore one. Because let's suppose if you are going to use this activity of backup multiple time in this workflow, then how should you will identify that at what particular point the workflow is running right now, there is some issue arises. You want to identify at what point the operation the problem has been created, or what point the workflow is running, will be using the backup underscore one. That is a unique name that has been given. Now, after that, you have the input tab. In the input, these are the values which is mentioned under the name, under the input tab. These are the values that you should define over here. Their value should be defined over here. If you do not define the values of input over here for any of the activity, every activity will have the input tab. So for any activity, if you're not going to define their values, it will not be running. It will give you an error that we will require this information and this information is missing. So how you can actually give that information? Now, first thing is client name. I will be running a backup. This activity, this tab is for running the backup. It will be running a backup. So for which client it will be running the backup, you have to mention the name of that particular client. Now, once you mention the name of the client over here, but this client name should be coming as an input from the customer. It should be coming up as the input from the customer, or the one who is running the script on this particular one. Okay, who is running this workflow, sorry. So what I can do is, if you want it as an input of the workflow, you can right click on the client and say create, and in the create there is one option is coming up with the name workflow input. You click on this one. So this is will be up, this value will be updated in this format. So what does it mean? It means that your client value will be taken as an input from the client. When you will run this, somebody will execute this workflow, it will prompt that mention the client name for which you want to run this particular workflow. So this is what I have mentioned. When you want to have a workflow input, this is how you are going to mention. Now, after that, it is the data agent. I have to mention the data agent for which you want to run this workflow. There are the two ways to mention the data agent. See, on a client, we can have a multiple agent. We can have a file system. We can have a SQL, Oracle, or whatever it is. Most of the time, two will be there, like file system or SQL, file system, Oracle, or something like this. So in that case, you want to run this thing for some specific, you're creating this workflow for running the backup for some specific agent type, like the file system, Oracle. In that case, from the data agent type, there is a drop down that can open. And in this one, you can select the specific agent. For example, DB2 backup, for example, file system backup, group wise, image level proxy, and all that. You can see all the agents name has been mentioned over there. So if you want to create this workflow for some specific type of agent, in that case you can select it. For example, I want to run it for the file system, but let's suppose you do not want to mention it over here. You do not specifically want to select the file system. You want that automatically, once I've given the client name, this workflow should able to extract that information, that what agents are lying in this thing. Okay, so in that case, what you can do is, over here there is some if you will go on the top in the list activity, there will be something coming up with the name data agent. This data agent activity will give you the output of the agents which has been installed, okay, on any of the client. So if I put this thing over here in between, okay, now you can see the double arrow is coming up. This arrow is going to this one forward as well, and this one as well. Now this arrow, start arrow, is going to the data agent, and from the data agent to backup. So before I can run this backup tab, I want that this workflow should extract the information of the data agent, and that is a reason why I put this data agent before the backup tab. Okay, so this arrow is but coming up in the two by direction. So I want from the data agent, the arrow should only go to the test backup. Nothing should be coming up from the back from the test backup. So I can select this arrow and I can click on delete button. Once you click on delete, this will be deleted. Now there is one arrow that has been deleted. If you want to delete the second one as well, that also will be possible, but I will select this arrow. I want to have an arrow from this one, so I will click on this arrow and take it to the 1 minute. Okay, so I will take this arrow to this backup. Come on. Okay, now this arrow has been created. So after getting the data agent, it will go to the backup. Now coming to the data agent, this data agent also have its input and output. So this input require the client name, but it has by default picked up that this client name will be coming up as an input for the workflow. So when the workflow will be executed at that time, whatever the client name has been mentioned, that client name will be extracted over here. That client name should be used over there. Now, in the output of this data agent, it will give you the list of the data agent name, description of that particular one, and the Boolean value. So, and even the exit code will be given over there. So what I want to use it, I want to use the data agent value over here. Okay, the output of this one should be used as an input value of this backup over here in its input in this data agent. So for that, you can select this one, and there is a tab coming up with the name insert variable. In the insert variable, this is a unique name of this data agent, that is data agent underscore one. You will expand this one. It is giving you all this information, data agent name and all that. So I can select, I want a data agent name. I want a data agent name from the output of this data agent underscore one. So you select this one and click on OK. As soon as you click on OK, you can see the output. This value has been modified, in which workflow data agent underscore one data agent data agent. This will give you the data agent install on the client that you have mentioned while executing this particular workflow. Now I got the data agent value. Now coming back to this backup tab. Now this backup tab required the backup set as well. Inside this agent, the agent that you have selected, it might have the multiple agent, or it might have a single agent. So whatever it is, I want that Commvault should also extract the data agent value over there. So for that one, what you can see is, sorry, not data agent, the backup set value. So for that, in the list, there is one more tab with the name backup set. So I will place this backup set activity between the data agent and the backup set. The reason being is, for that one, the reason is, once the data as agent has been identified, then only I will be identifying the backup set. If you will see the client tree structure, okay, if you will go to the Commvault console, back to the Commvault console, and if you will see this client tree structure over here, in this client tree structure, you will see the client name. Once you have the client name, you will see all the agent. Once you expand the agent, you will see the backup set. And once you expand the backup set, then you will see the subclient of the related to this one. So this is the reason why first I have to give the client name, which I'm taking as the input for the workflow. Then I have to make sure that I'm getting the agent. Then I'm getting the backup set, and then I will get the subclient. And that is the reason why I am putting up this agent first. Client I have mentioned as an input. Then the data agent, extract the data agent. Now I will put an activity to extract the backup set from the client that I have mentioned and under the data agent that has been extracted by this activity. So for that, I will get this backup set and place over here in between. Now it has arrow has been correctly updated. From the data agent, it will go to the backup set, and from the backup set, it will go to the test backup, this backup activity. Now this backup set, if I select, this also has its input and output. Guys, remember always that every activity input value should be defined properly. Now this backup set also knows automatically that client value given will be given as input. Now in the data agent, you can use that whatever data agent has been detected in this data agent activity, use that one. So for that, the output, that means you want to use the output of this data agent as an input for this backup set. So for that, you will select this data agent and click on insert value. In the insert value, again, you will be able to see the data, this data agent one, which is a unique name for this tab. And I will expand this data agent and select the data agent and click on OK. Now, once you click on OK, you can see in the data agent, you have given the information, whatever extracted in the last tab. For the instance, if you know the concept of the multi-instance and all that, that is applicable over there. But that will be more applicable if you have a multi-instancing and all that. If you want to extract the instance, that activity is also there in this one with the name instance. Okay, this is there, but we are not going to use it. We are going to we want is to extract for the by default. If you are not going to mention it, so whatever the by default instance it is, it will pick up that one. Okay, so I have given for the backup set, I have given all the value for input instance. I'm not required to give it. By default it will pick up. Okay, now this backup set as output give you the backup set value. Okay, so coming back to this backup activity, if I see in this input activity, this is a backup set. So I want the output of this backup set, whatever the backup set information has been extracted in this activity, should be put as an input in this backup. So for that, again, I will select this one and say insert variable. And now you can see the backup set underscore one, which is a unique name for this backup set tab. I will expand this one and I will select backup set and click on OK. Now this will be this will become as the value for the backup set name for which the backup will be extracted. Now the subclient name, either you can mention the subclient name specifically, or if you want that Commvault should extract the subclient name, because I can have a multiple subclient as well. So for that also you can mention the over here, you can mention this subclient information, which is there. We'll just scroll down. There is an activity to extract the subclient as well. So you will extract the subclient over here and you will place in between according to the client tree structure. I'm following it. Okay. Okay. Again, I'm repeating the same thing. So in the subclient, I required the client name for the input. I required the client name, which is already completed. In the data agent, I will say in the data agent, I will say insert variable, and the data agent, whatever has been extracted over there, use that particular data agent, click on OK. After that, in the instance, just keep it by default, and the backup set, whatever is the output of this backup set, use that one. So you will again click on insert variable, and this time I will say backup set underscore one, select backup set and click on OK. Now the value has been given. Now coming back to this one for the backup. Now for this subclient value, I want the output of this activity subclient should be given as an input to this one. So you can again say insert variable, and you will be able to see this subclient underscore one, which has a unique name of this subclient activity. Of course, I will select the subclient name and click on OK. Okay. Now this subclient value is also taken out from the last tab. Instance name, I will just keep it by default, whatever it is. Now in the backup type, what backup type you want to run. So in the backup type, you have to mention you want to run a full backup, incremental, or differential, or whatever it is. So either you can ask this as a input from the customer when they are running this workflow. So you can right click and say create and say workflow input, that give me as an input. But what I will do is I will define it, and we are going to always run the full backup using this one. So over here, if you will click on over there on this tab, there is a drop down that will open, which has a Q underscore full, Q underscore ing, Q underscore diff, and the Q underscore synthetic. In this format, you have to put the name if you want to have it as an input. So I will say I am creating this for the full backup. That's it. So that means I have completed all the input activity. Argument, I do not require to pass any argument in this one. Instance, it will by default pick up the instance. Whatever is the default instance, I'm keeping that value empty. So that means all other important things I have given, which is required for the restoration, for this backup tab to initiate. Now, once you have this backup tab, all the information is given. Now, what I want is, I want whatever this will initiate when you will execute this workflow. When it reaches to this activity, it will initiate a backup job in your job controller. Now, what you want is you want to wait till this backup job is not getting completed. So for that, what you will do is under the job, there is something coming up, wait for job completion. So you will put this one tab over here. So this, now this, it has picked up the wrong arrow from the subclient. It is going directly going for the wait for the job. I will just select this one and delete it. But what I want is from this one, it should be coming to this one. Now, It will wait for the job completion. So if I select the wait for the job completion, it required a job ID as an input. It has already picked up. The output of this backup tab, if you will see, it is giving you the job ID as the output code, as the output. So this job ID has been used as an input for the wait for the job completion activity. And in this one, you can say that job ID, if you will go to the input of wait for the job completion, in the job ID, it has already mentioned workflow slash backup underscore one job ID. It is using the output job ID of this backup. Whatever the job ID has been initiated by this activity has been work as an input for this one. Now, after that, it will give you the output. It will give you successful jobs, failed jobs, successful exit code, and the command output. These are the things that it will give you the output. Okay. Now, what I will do is, once the job get complete, it will move to the next tab. And next tab that I want to have is, I will place a decision. Okay. I say take a decision. An arrow has come up correctly this time. Now I want that if this job for which this particular tab was waiting for, if that job get complete successfully, then we will move towards the restoration. But if that backup job get failed or it did not happen successfully, so in that case, I want to send an email that your workflow, your backup was failed, and send an email regarding that. So what I will do is, in this decision, okay, once you have this decision, if you will go to the input of this particular decision, it required an expression. Okay, it required an expression. If this job was completed successfully, or this tab was completed successfully, it will give you an exit code. It will give you the exit code. It will give you the exit code as 0. Okay. So this job completion will give you the exit code at 0. So what I can say is decision over here, and I can say expression, and I can say insert variable, and I can say from the wait for the job completion. And if I say exit code, select the exit code. And over here, I will say if the exit code is equivalent to 0. Okay. That means backup got successful. Okay. So that is a condition I'm defining. The backup, the exit code is 0. That is, if that statement I'm giving, the expression I'm giving, the condition I'm giving is that if the backup gets successful. If it does not, the exit value is not 0. So what I want to do is, I want to send an email of failure. So for that, if you will go over here in the, 1 minute, in the utilities, you have one tab with the name email. You select this activity, bring it to the email, and say from the decision. If you will select this line, see this display, you can mention the display for this line. So I want to mention a display false, or I can say backup failed. That means it will move towards this situation. It will send you a mail if the backup get failed. You can see this one. Now it should send an email if the backup get failed, but I have not mentioned the condition over there. So I have to select execute when the condition is false. That means when the exit code is not equals to 0, then comes towards this particular tab. I have mentioned over here the exit code should be in the input of this decision. I said exit code should be equal to 0. If it's not, then move towards the email. If it's not, that condition you have to define on this arrow. Select this arrow, give the display name, whatever you want, and you can say execute when the condition is false. That means when the exit code is not 0, that means backup when backup got failed. So send an email. If you will select this email, now in the input of this email, it will ask you this way. What email ID that you should be using for sending the emails. Okay. So this is an email ID that you actually have configured inside your Commvault console for sending up the email. So just want to show you that one. If you will go over here in the job controller. So if you will go to the email web and FTP server, you have to configure the email ID over here. So I'm using my Gmail ID for sending up. I have put the SMTP address for the Gmail and all that. And I'm using my Gmail account for sending up the alerts. Okay. So that will be the account for which the Commvault has a permission right now. So I will come back to this one. So I will just put the from which email ID should be sent and to whom it should be sent. So let's suppose I'm sending to my same email ID. Okay. So 2090 @gmail.com. com. You can put any email ID to whom you want to send, whom you want to keep in CC, BCC and all that. Now in the subject, I can put backup for workflow got failed, and you can put the job ID over here, job ID. Now I want job ID should be extracted from this backup, whatever the backup job ID it has. So I over here, I can say insert variable, and from this test backup, whatever the job ID that was initiated, I can select this one and click on OK. So when the subject line will come, it will say backup for the workflow got failed, colon, job ID, arrow sign, and then it will show you the job ID. Now over here in the content, you can put anything just to mark as a, you can say a check mark. I can say backup got failed for workflow. Please check. Okay, that's it. Now you have given this thing, and it will in the output, it will send you that small that email send and all that. Okay, now email will be sent. Now after that, I want, once the email has been sent, the workflow should be ended, because anyhow the backup got failed. I need to troubleshoot. So in that case, what I can do is, there is in the control flow, there is a tab for the workflow end. So I will bring it over here and say workflow end. And from this one, there is a tab automatically has been come up over here, the end the workflow, simple. Now this is for the false condition that we have defined. What when the condition gets successful? So once the condition gets successful, if the exit code is zero, that means backup got failed, backup got successful. So I want to initiate a restoration from there. So for that, what I can do is I can again go to the Q commands. In the Q commands, in the operations, there will be one operation with the name restore. Here we go. You select this tab and bring it over here. Okay. Now this is the line which is coming up directly from the email, but I don't want it from coming up. I want it from the decision. Okay. So now for this line, you can mention the decision as well. If you'll select this line, this is a display for that one. Backup success. Okay. Click on OK. And then you can define the condition that if it's true, then only initiate this restoration. Okay. That means backup got successful, then only initiate the restoration. So you will select true. Once you select true, now the restoration will start. Now we will see what all inputs this restoration tab required. If I go to the input, it required a source client, data agent client, backup set client, instance client, source path, destination client, destination path, argument file path, and all that. What I will do is I will mention the source client as the input of the client. Whatever the client name was put as a source, that should be work for me. So I will say workflow input. Whatever the workflow input was, or you can, instead of this one, what you can say is insert variable in this one, and you can say workflow input, and you can select this client and click on OK. Okay. Now, whatever the input was given for the client name, that should be used for the source client. In the data agent, again, I want that whatever the data agent was extracted by this tab. So I can select this one and say insert variable, and I can go to the data agent, so expand the agent type, and select the data agent and click on OK. Now, once you click on OK, you can see the value updated. Now we'll give the information for the backup set, that also we'll say insert variable from the backup set _1. Click on OK. Now you got the value for this one as well. Instance, we'll keep it by default, whatever it has. Source path. Now from where the restoration should be done. Like what data you want to restore. Now you have to mention only that particular path that you're already backing up. Otherwise your restoration will say that, you know, path does not found. So right now, if I go over here in my sub client and check what data I'm backing up under this one, because I will be running backup for this particular client only. Okay. You can run it for anything, but I'm pre-planned that I'm going to run it for this one. So this is a path that I'm backing up right now. So I will just copy this path. I think this is the folder that I'm backing up. That is a DR folder only, but that's okay. So I will say Control C, and that's it. I will again go to the workflow. Okay. So, okay. We'll go to the workflow. In this one, you can see in the source path, I will just double click on this one and say Control V. Okay. This is the path that should be restored. Now destination client to where it should be restored. That you can make sure that like either you want to restore it in the same client, you can take the same client name that you have mentioned in the source client, or you can ask as an input. So let's suppose we'll take it as an input only. So we'll say take it as an input from the customer. Let the customer select this thing. Okay. Or I can say insert variable and say no, and that's okay. Like I've selected as a input from the client. Now destination path where I want to restore it, I can say that restore it to the let's suppose we'll say test workflow. Okay, over there it should be restored. So that's it. That also you can say input, you can take as an input while executing this workflow. So in the destination you have selected test workflow, and that's it. These are the information that you require. In the output it is going to give you the job ID and the exit code. Now what I will do is I will again put a tab for the wait for the job completion. I will wait for this restoration job to get complete. Okay. So in this input of this job for completion, it has already picked up the ID from the restore underscore one. Remember that it's already picked up from the restore underscore one. This is what the unique name. If you will go to the journal, you can see the unique name of this particular restore underscore one. So this has picked up the input as the job ID, which was initiated by this particular restore one. This will wait for this restoration job to get complete. Once that restoration job get complete successfully, okay, what will happen then, I want that it should send an email for the success if it gets successful, and send an email for the failure if it get failed, and then end the workflow. So what I will do is I will go over here and I will go to the control flow and I will take a decision. Okay. And I will put a decision chart over here. I'll just reduce the size of this one to have it on a same window. We can have all the component. Yes. Okay. So I have taken a decision. In the decision, I'm telling it that if, or just keep it, I will just shift this tab over here on the lower side. So in this decision, I want to take a decision that if it gets successful, okay, then send an email for success. And if it gets failed, then send an email for failed. So I will go in the decision first. In the decision input, I will define the expression. If I say insert variable, the last is wait for job. And if the exit code is equals to 0, okay, and this is what the should be the condition that should be checked. And if that condition is true, then send an email for the success. Okay, so I will go to the utilities and go to the email. If it is successful, send an email. So I will select this arrow and define the condition first, like restore success. I will say restore success. That will be a display name for this arrow. And oh, sorry, I will define the condition that if it's true, like if the exit code is 1, so I will say 1. I'll select the condition true, then send this email. So in this email input, I can again define all those things. My email ID that should be used to send that email. Then to whom it should be sent. Okay, and then you can keep it to whatever CC BCC, and I will say restore success, and I will say job ID. I will just give the job ID as well, and let's give the job ID as a input from output of this restoration tab job ID, and click on OK. And you can mention in the content like restore success. That's it. And then this is your tab is ready, email. So you can after that end the workflow. So I can again match it to this one, to the end workflow only. Sorry guys. So I will just match it over there. Now I will have the another condition on the lower side. I will say failed. For that one, I will have one more email over here. And I don't want this arrow coming up from this one. I want this arrow to be coming up from this decision. Now I will select this arrow and define the display name restore failed. Okay. And then I will define the condition that if exit code is not equals to 0, so that means restore got failed. Then send this email in which I can say in the input again, okay, I will put the same over here in the subject, restore failed, and I can say job ID of failed restore, and I can again take it from this restore ID. That's it. And I in the container I can say restore failed. Okay, now that's it. Then I will match this email to this end the workflow, like end the workflow as well. So that's it, guys. This is what you need. This should fulfill my required like the scenario that we have done. We have completed. Now you can see the entire flow diagram that is coming up over here. Okay, now if you want to see the XML conversion of this workflow, you can click on this XML and you can see this is converted to over here in the coding, okay, which is a code of 157 line or something. So but if you will go to the graph tab, you can see the graph picture view of this one. Now I want to deploy it first. You cannot directly execute, first you have to deploy it. So what I will do is I will first save it, and you can give the name to this workflow. I will say test uh, my workflow. Okay, let's give this name. You can give any name according to what you're doing. Then it will say confirm for the deployment. It will deploy it inside the workflow. I will say yes. To which workflow engine you want to do it. This is represent your Commvault. On generally we install the workflow on the Commvault. So if you have a multiple workflow engine, you can select it. By default, most of the time we have the one. So we'll just click on OK. Say deploying workflow, test my workflow. Now successfully deploy. Now I can this has been deployed successfully. I can go to the Commvault console, and if I go to the workflows, I should be able to see this one, this workflow coming up over here. Okay, 1 minute. Here it is. Okay, test my workflow. So now what I will do is I will right click on this one. I will say all task and I will say execute. As soon as you click on execute in your job controller, you will see the respective job coming up over here. Okay, so let's try clicking on the execute, and then we'll see that how it goes. So guys, we'll just click on execute, and once you click on execute, now see it is asking me two things. It is asking me the client name for which that workflow should be running, and for the restoration purpose, because these are the only two things that I put as an input for the workflow. So it's just asking me the client name for which the workflow will be executed, and during the restoration what will be the destination client. Now once you have given only these two things, just click on OK. Now, once you click on OK, you will be see with respective to that one workflow has been initiated over here. And if you will double click on this one and go to the attempt, you can see what all activity it has already completed. So it has started data agent, backup set activity, subclient property. Now test backup has been initiated and it is waiting for the job to get complete. Okay, it is on the wait for the job completion. So that means according to this flow chart right now, this workflow is executing over here somewhere. So we'll wait for that workflow to it has initiated a job, which you can see in the background. This is a job that has been initiated. You can see even that it is waiting for the job 37 to get complete. Now the job has been initiated, got 62% complete and all that. Once it get complete, then it will move forward. This job got completed. Now this workflow will move forward. If you will see on this one, now it has initiated a restore job. It has not sent an email after the backup. That means backup was successful. Of course, this is what the condition that we have created. Now it will be restoring on the test workflow folder. It will be creating a test workflow folder inside the C drive, because that is a location that we have given while creating the workflow. So inside the C drive, once this restoration job get complete, and this restoration job has the job ID of 38, if that gets successful, like this, I want to keep it for the mail process. I want to show you on the email that I will be receiving an email notification with the job ID 38 that it got successful. So it got successful. Now you can see the workflow. It was waiting for the restore job to get complete. Now it should reach to the email one. It should be sending the email now. The phase should change to the email, and after that workflow will be completed. Now you can see the email. Okay, now job ID was 38 for the restoration, 37 for the backup. So what we will do is we will go inside the my mail ID. It got successfully executed, completed. So verify the restoration, we should be able to see a folder with the name test workflow. If I double click on this one, you can see the content is coming up inside this one. And to verify from the email perspective, let me open my email account, and then I should see there should be one email lying over there with the job ID 38 saying restoration got successfully completed. So guys, this is what it is. Like you can see an email I have received on my email ID, and then you can see that it's saying restore success, and in the subject line you can say restore success job ID 38. Okay, so this is how you gonna create actually a workflow, or the basics about it. I know there is a lot more things, and even this will be having a little more improvement that we can do in this particular one regarding the condition that we have put for the decision and all that. Instead of exit code, we can try selecting the backup itself and all that. Okay, now if you want to create it, like you can even put a schedule. If there is every information that you have put in there in this workflow, there is no input that has been required by these workflow. Okay, you can even create the schedule policies for these workflows. So you can go to the schedule policies, sorry, you can go to the policies, and on the schedule policy you can right click and say let's suppose we want to create a new schedule policy. In the type you can select the workflow. Okay, in the type you can select the workflow, and once you select the workflow you can create a task over here, and in the association uh, let me click on add, and you can select the workflow specific workflow that you want to execute. And let's suppose if I select this test my workflow, you can put the client name over here. Every, like whatever the client name and destination client name that you will put over there, with that information every time workflow will be executed on whatever like whatever task that you will mention under the general, whatever time you will mention under in the task. So in this way you can schedule these workflow. There is a lot more advantage, like you can, for some people who just want to initiate a backup for few client, you can give them, you can create a workflow where they just need to give the name of a client. They will put the name of a client over there, and the backup will be executed, and they will be receiving a notification whether that backup gets successfully or failed. If it gets failed, then they can get back to you as a backup admin and ask for the help and all that. So in this way you can do the lot of things, a lot of things can be automated using this workflow. So in future we will be coming up more videos on the workflow, defining all other activities, like using the Commvault DB query, or the creating your own script and all that, executing inside the workflow, integrating with the workflow, along the Python as well, and using the PowerShell or the REST API, which is a very interesting one. uh, so using them, you can do a lot of automation. You can create your own scripts to get the information from the console. You can create your own reports and all that. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you. Do If you really like this video, do subscribe to my channel. uh, Thank you guys, thank you so much.